Welcome D&D and Warhammer friends to a new character build for Baldurs Gate 3. This episode we are covering all 12 levels of the Circle of the Shepherd Druid Subclass, courtesy of the mod author Havsglint, one of my favorite mod authors who's made some very standout subclasses. Now, according to them, this is a description of the Circle of the Shepherd. Druids of the Circle of the Shepherd commune with the spirits of nature, especially the spirits of beasts and the Fae, and call to those spirits for aid. These druids recognize that all living things play a role in the natural world, yet they focus on protecting animals and Fae creatures that have difficulty defending themselves. Shepherds, as they are known, see such creatures as their charges. They ward off monsters that threaten them, rebuke hunters who kill more prey than necessary, and prevent civilization from encroaching on rare animal habitats and on the sites sacred to the Fae. Now, this is a little bit of a different build than what I'm normally known for, and the reason why that I want to make this somewhat Warhammer themed is because of the race that we are using. We are also using a modded race, that is the Yuan-Ti race, which are essentially snakemen. There are snake people of Khuresh in the Warhammer Fantasy universe, and as always, let me know, both Warhammer and D&D friends, if I'm choosing any level ups or also abilities in terms of whether they are very lore accurate, and also feel free to correct me in the comments below too. I always like using the comments as a good way to dive into the lore of both D&D and Warhammer. But the theme of this build, as I said, is going to be more of not necessarily a druid that transforms into creatures, but more so of a summoner build. And yes, I know the Yuan-Ti and D&D and the snakemen of Khuresh in Warhammer Fantasy aren't necessarily the most noble or the kindest people, but we're going to just roleplay this character as a sort of snake person that's turned over a new leaf, but is still very much vicious in her own way. Now for the first level of this build, some of the features that we get playing as the Yuan-Ti is we already know the poison spray cantrip, which does 1 to 12 poison damage in 3 meters, and also if we pick the Yuan-Ti Pureblood, we have the added benefit of magic resistance, advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects, poison immunity, immune to poison damage and the poison condition, and innate spellcasting. Like I said, we know the poison spray cantrip, and we can cast Animal Friendship an unlimited number of times with this trait. Starting at 3rd level, you can also cast Suggestion with this trait. Once you cast it, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. These are very useful features both in combat and also for dialogue purpose too. Cantrip choices here for roleplay purposes, I'm picking up Acid Splash, which is technically a Pathfinder spell. I am using some Pathfinder spell mods to further enhance my character builds. 5 to 10 acid damage, splash a glob of acid that splatters your target and nearby creatures. For 10 turns, they take 1 acid damage per turn. This is a really good damage over time spell and also somewhat of a crowd control spell too in terms of clumping up enemies together and dishing out damage that way. Glass Shield is going to be a very useful counter attack spell as well. Summon a layer of clear glass to keep you from harm. Gain 4 temporary hit points if a foe does attack you within 5 feet while you have the temporary hit points active. The shield shatters a bit and deals 1 to 4 piercing damage to the attacker. And like I said, this is a good retaliatory spell, and this does count as a bonus action too. I'm also using modded backgrounds, and I'm picking up Haunted One, which grants us skills that are very useful in medicine and intimidation. Like I was saying before, this Yuan-Ti / snake person of Khuresh is going to be someone who turned over a new leaf but is still haunted by some of their past wrongdoings, and this is pretty good for roleplay purposes too. Abilities, of course we're going to put most of our points into Wisdom, maxing it out at 17, leaving Intelligence and Charisma alone. Strength we can also leave alone as well, and also put more points into Dexterity and Constitution, rounding them out to respectable 14s and overall +2s. For the skill proficiencies, we're going to be getting animal handling at +5, insight at a +5, medicine +5, intimidation at a +2. For our spell choices, I'm picking ones that are either snake-like or also very much poison-esque. First one being Brandy Bolt, which is technically a Pathfinder spell. 2 to 12 bludgeoning damage, hurl a bolt of salt water from your extended hand, dealing damage and blinding the creature for 2 turns. And also these two, Entangle and Snare, very much nearly one and the same. Entangle means that we can possibly trap a person where they can't move. Attacks against it have advantage, while its attack rolls and dex saving throws have disadvantage. Snare, on the other hand, makes it so that enemies could possibly fall prone, become restrained, and be open for attacks against them. And also, for some utility purpose too, I'm picking up a heal, which is going to be the Pathfinder version, allowing us 10 to 24 healing, or potentially dealing 1 to 8 radiant damage to undead enemies. Level 2 is when we gain access to Circle of the Shepherd, and just like with the other druid classes, we can wild shape into different animal forms. However, the thing that sets this apart is the action of Summon Spirit Totem. This is a bonus action. Summon an incorporeal spirit totem that takes the shape of a bear, hawk, or stag, and grants you and your allies benefits depending on the type of totem you summon. Now, taking a look at some of these totem effects. Spirit Totem, Bear. Summon an incorporeal bear totem that grants you and your allies its might and endurance. Spirit grants allies 7 temporary hit points within 9 meters of where it appears, and your allies gain advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws while in the Spirit Totem's aura for 10 turns. Now, here's the thing too, placement really matters and strategic positioning matters too with these totems as well. Spirit Totem Hawk grants allies advantage on perception checks while in the Spirit Totem's aura, and you can grant yourself or an ally advantage on an attack roll against a target standing in the aura. So this is more so of actually being able to land an attack on those more dodgy or pesky enemies. As for the Stag, granting the ability to sense hidden creatures and objects while within the Spirit Totem's aura. In addition, if you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points, you may cause all allies in the aura to regain hit points equal to your druid level. So it has a little bit of support and utility, and also I like the idea that this is very oddly specific, but then also, of course, getting rid of those invisible enemies. Level 3 is when we gain access to more spells, and the personal ones that I would pick up are more so for roleplay purposes, like Acid Arrow, which is a Pathfinder spell, and Brine Dragon, which is also Pathfinder related. 4 to 30 acid damage, conjure an arrow of acid that continues corroding the target after it hits, make a spell attack on the target. On the first hit, you deal 3 to 24 acid damage, and additional 1 to 6 acid damage at the start of each of your enemy's turns for 10 turns. As for Bile Dragon, spit a glob of caustic salt water that stings the wounds of the creature made by piercing or slashing damage, dealing 2 to 12 acid damage, persistent acid damage on hit for 10 turns. So both of these are very damage over time spells, and also plays into the roleplay of having poison based attacks for a Yuan-Ti. Summon Beast is also a kind of a support spell that allows us to summon a minion in battle, and also so it can gain benefits from our previous totem action. At level 4, the cantrip I would personally pick up here for roleplay purposes would be Puff of Poison. Yes, another Pathfinder based cantrip. 4 damage overall, exhale a shimmering cloud of toxic breath at an enemy's face, dealing 4 poison damage and 2 additional poison damage at the start of each of their turns for 10 turns. For your spell choice, picking up here for, again, roleplay purposes, protection from poison. Touch a creature to neutralize all poisons affecting it, and granted protection against poisonous influences. Really good support spell for your allies and your summons. And for the feat choice here, I would pick up ability improvement, putting 2 points into wisdom, and very soon too, once we level up to another feat, then I'll choose one of these feats, whether it's modded or if it's a base game feat, that will round us out to an even 20. Level 5 is one of my personal favorites too. Not only do we get the extra attack from Wild Strike, but also we gain 2 extra spell slots that we can pick from, and personally, the 2 that I would pick here really complement each other. Summon Fae is going to be one of our bread and butter spells. Call forth a Fae Spirit with a chosen mood. Fuming, Mirthful, or Tricksy, the spirit has different spells available depending on the chosen mood. With Fuming, the Summon Fae is furious. After using its Fae Step ability, it has advantage on its next attack roll. Mirthful, Summon Fae is positively captivating. After using its Fae Step ability, it can charm a nearby enemy. And for Tricksy, the Summon Fae is up to something. When using its Fae Step ability, it can create a patch of darkness that lasts until the end of its turn. So, Mirthful and Tricksy, very utility-wise, and also being able to disrupt enemies in combat. Fuming, being able to be on the more aggressive side, and also with the Fuming Fae, I would personally use the Envenom Companion. Envenom your companion's attacks, which strip with highly toxic venom for the spell's duration. Creature's weapon deals an additional 1 to 8 poison damage. A creature that is damaged by this poison must attempt a Constitution save. On a failure, it becomes clumsy for 1 round, and this lasts for 10 turns with Envenom. These 2 are going to be really useful for us as a summoner, and also, you could also Envenom your summoned beast or one of your other companions in battle too. At level 6, I would personally pick up Conjure Animals, basically what it sounds like. Summon Fae Beasts to aid you, taking the shape of a saber-toothed tiger, a polar bear, or a giant eagle. And also, the subclass feature we gain here is Mighty Summoner. Beasts and Fae that you conjure are more resilient than normal. When casting a spell that summons a beast or Fae, it gains increased health and its natural weapons are considered magical, overcoming all resistance towards non-magical damage. This is really good in terms of enhancing all of our summons, even some of the more based ones too, and simple ones like Summon Beasts. And this is overall just going to make our little army of Fae and Wild Spirits ever more powerful. At level 7, the spell I would personally pick up here would be Conjure Woodland Beings. Summon a Fae creature taking the shape of a Dryad or Meanlock to fight alongside you. Personally, you could also justify picking up Minor Elemental, but this is more so in terms of the roleplay, and also just adding a little bit of extra minions to our growing army of Fae. At level 8, the spell choices I would personally pick up here would be Conjure Minor Elemental, again, just adding another minion to our growing army, but then if you want to add some support spells for you and your minions, Stone Skin is a good pickup here. Turn a creature's flesh hard as stone, takes only half the damage of all non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. As for the feat, I'm going to choose a modded one, which is Gift of the Gem Dragon. Increase our wisdom by 1, maxing it out to 20. When you take damage from a creature within 3 meters of you, you can use your reaction to deal force damage and attempt to push the creature away. Now yes, it is nice to have our wisdom at a solid 20 overall plus 5, but I like this added benefit too, as being able to still do damage on our turn despite it being the enemy, and also it's going to pair well with some of our pieces of equipment too that allow us to retaliate back. At level 9, the spell choices I would personally pick up here would be Conjure Elemental to add even more versatility in our army and providing our minions with different kinds of magical and elemental attacks, and Stone Skin to pair with all of our elementals and summons too. Like I was saying before, take all half damage from those types of attacks. At level 10, cantrip choice doesn't really matter here. I personally like picking up the Pathfinder version of Guidance. adding attack and saving rolls to a +3 until the start of their next turn for 2 turns. So yes, you don't get the 10 turns of a 1d4, but you get that permanent +3 at least. So pick and choose whichever one you like here. Prepared spell for roleplay purposes, and also a justification for even more different types of summoning. Insect plague, locusts attack everyone within range, make the area difficult terrain, and impose disadvantage on perception checks. Pretty much a good crowd control and area of effect spell. At level 11, the spell choice I would personally pick up here to lean into our summoning aspect would be Elemental Confluence. Conjure 4 types of elementals who combine forces to form into a chaotic storm. This is essentially like your ultimate ability. You could also justify picking up Necrotize, another Pathfinder spell. Necrotize part of a creature's body, harming it and debilitating it as its body putrefies, mimicking the natural process of decay. Target takes 12 to 72 necrotic damage and one of the debilitations for 10 turns. So this is more so of an offensive spell, leaning into the Yuan-Ti poison-based attacks, but also just to really showcase and lean into the roleplay aspect of the Shepherd Summoner, I'm going to pick up the Elemental Confluence. Finally, at level 12, the spell choice I would personally pick up here would be Flesh to Stone, Atrophy a Foe, restrain them until they temporarily turn to stone for 3 turns. As for the feat, Unarmored Master would be a good pickup here. Whenever you're hit by a melee attack while wearing no armor or shield, gain a dodge charge, which you can spend to cause an attack to miss or to automatically succeed a dex saving throw. For the equipment, I decided to pick ones that would lean into what aesthetically a Yuan-Ti would wear, and also give us effects that would complement a Yuan-Ti's own abilities. For the hat, I would personally pick up Shapeshifter Hat, Nature's Embrace, increase our wild shape charge by 1, additional charge is restored upon taking a long rest, and also gives us +1 to nature. Fleshmelter Cloak, this is really important here too with Caustic Reprisal. Whenever a creature deals melee damage to the wearer, that creature takes 1d4 acid damage, and this will stack with our gift of the Metallic Dragon. Graceful Cloth, Cat's Grace, gain Cat's Grace and increase our dex score by 2 to a maximum of 20. With Cat's Grace, we have advantage on dex checks and only take half damage from falling. Nimble as a cat, gain a +1 bonus to dex saving throws and increase our jump distance by 1.5 meters. Icarus Gloves, when the wearer deals acid damage, they also inflict noxious fumes upon the targets. Hostile creatures in a radius of 3 meters take 1 to 4 acid damage for a tiny bit of crowd control and additional damage as well. Shadow Step Boots, with shadow teleportation, teleport to an unoccupied obscured spot, really good for dungeon diving. As for our Amulet and Rings, Amulet of Ball, First Blood, on a hit, inflict bleeding upon targets that have max hit points, complementing our Scimitar, which we'll get into shortly. Caustic Ban, weapon attacks also deal 2 additional acid damage, really just stacking up the poison-esque type of damage there. And also Burnished Ring, Paralyzing Ray, kind of role-playing into the paralysis poison effects of snake people or Yuan-Ti. Paralyze a target for 2 turns. As for the weapon choice here, you're not going to really be using a lot of up-close personal melee attacks unless you really want to, and want to also run the gauntlet and take the risk of potentially being able to dodge as well. With Shadow Binding from Justicar's Scimitar, if you attack with advantage, you have a chance of blinding your target. And also, like I was saying too, risk and reward. Do you want to take that risk of getting into close melee combat, but then also having a chance to cause your enemies to go blind and flail around? Weapon enchantment +2 as well, and this counts as a finesse weapon. Alright friends, that has been my character showcase and class showcase of the Circle of the Shepherds Druid subclass, and also of the Yuan-Ti as well. Let me know in the comments if you think I need to choose different level up choices, or in terms of equipment for this character build. I always really love hearing your guys' feedback in terms of how you would build this character differently, or also completely out of left field characters of your own that you would make with these subclass showcases. And as always, I decided to go with all 12 levels with this, just because this is my way of saying thank you to Havsglint. Havsglint is arguably one of my personal favorite mod authors when it comes to bringing classes from 5th edition D&D to Baldur's Gate, and really just utilizing all the mechanics there is to get it as close as possible. Now yes, when it comes to bringing 5th edition classes to Baldur's Gate, I know not everything is going to be exactly the same because, like I mentioned before, the game is limited by its available mechanics, but also the mod author's creativity really shines through with these types of mods as well. And also, please let me know in the comments whether you're a returning or a new viewer, what kinds of other mods or characters you would like me to build and showcase too. And also, if you are a new viewer and made it this far into the video, thank you so much for taking the time to see everything there is this class has to offer. And if you want to see more, I do have several other videos showcasing the different types of subclasses, and also recently I've been multi-classing them together as well with base game classes too. So if you love everything you have seen so far, and would like to join in on more adventures, I'd love to have you consider hitting the like, subscribe, and bell icon notifications, and I'll save you a seat at the table for those adventures, friends. Take care and farewell.